When I married Daniel, I thought I knew everything about him. We'd met at a volunteer soup kitchen in Chicago, bonded over our shared love of helping people, and in less than a year we were saying our vows. He was kind, dependable, and honest, or so I believed. One rainy afternoon, 6 years into our marriage, my world shifted. I'd just come home from work when I saw him sitting at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. Across from him stood two little girls, maybe 3 or 4 years old, with matching hazel eyes and tangled curls. They clung to each other like frightened kittens. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice shaking. He confessed that before he met me, he'd been briefly involved with a woman who left him without a word, only to reappear years later, with proof of twin daughters he never knew existed. She was sick, and she begged him to take them. I remember how my chest felt tight and cold, how betrayal and pity warred inside me. But then I looked at the girls. They were watching me with wide, unsure eyes, their tiny hands gripping each other like lifelines. And something inside me softened. I could have said no. I could have demanded he find another solution. But instead, I knelt down, smiled through my tears, and said, "Hi, sweethearts. I'm Anna. Welcome home." That was the day I became their mother. The years that followed weren't easy. We stumbled through tantrums, hospital visits, parent-teacher conferences, and sleepless nights. The girls, Emily and Claire, had been through more than any child should. At first, they barely spoke. They flinched at loud noises, refused to be apart from each other, and clung to me so hard my arms ached. But slowly, with patience and love, they bloomed. We painted their room a sunny yellow. I sewed dresses for their kindergarten play. We made Saturday pancakes a tradition, always arguing over whether to add blueberries or chocolate chips. And somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking of them as his daughters. They became mine. Daniel passed away unexpectedly when the girls were 12. A heart attack. It was the darkest time of my life. I'd lost my husband, and I was terrified the girls might feel like orphans all over again. But when we stood at his graveside, they each held one of my hands. "We're still a family," Emily whispered. "Yes," I promised. Always. This spring, 16 years after that rainy afternoon, I woke on my birthday to find the house quiet. Too quiet. The girls, now beautiful young women, had both moved out a few months ago for college and jobs. They'd sent me a card earlier in the week, but I didn't expect more than a phone call today. So when the doorbell rang, I assumed it was a delivery. Instead, there they stood. They were dressed up, each holding a small box tied with ribbon, grinning like little girls again. "Surprise," they said in unison. They ushered me into the living room and sat me down. "Mom," Claire began, her eyes already glistening. 16 years ago, you didn't have to take us in. You could have said no. But you chose us. You chose to love us. You gave us a home and a family when we didn't think we'd ever have one." Emily nodded, her voice thick. "You taught us what love really means, not just the easy kind, but the hard, everyday kind. The kind that shows up no matter what. So, we wanted to do something for you." They handed me the boxes. I opened the first, a delicate gold necklace with 2 intertwined hearts, engraved with "Forever Our Mom." And then I opened the second. Inside was a folder. Adoption papers. I blinked, confused. Emily smiled through her tears. "We want to make it official. We want to be yours legally. Not just in our hearts, but on paper too. Because you've always been our mom. And now, we want the world to know it." I couldn't speak. Tears blurred everything as I pulled them both into my arms. "I don't need a piece of paper to know you're mine," I managed to whisper, my heart full to bursting. "But I'd be honored." That night, we sat on the couch together, looking through old photo albums, laughing and crying over memories. And I realized something. Love isn't about biology. It isn't about what you're given, but what you choose. And the greatest choice I ever made was to love those little girls. In choosing them, I found my purpose, my joy, my family. To anyone out there who feels like love has passed them by, or that they don't belong, know this: family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up for you, who stays, who chooses you every single day. And sometimes, What you give comes back to you in ways you could never imagine. Because kindness doesn't just change lives, it creates them.